Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I wanted to upload a video essay of mine which is my understanding on how and why smart people fail. I have been classmates in the secondary school with so many brilliant people. I have been classmates with them in college and also their colleagues in my career. And I have seen how their lives unfold. And I thought it would be interesting to just present my understanding to you in a format of a YouTube video. But when I was recording the video, I realized that I need some whiteboard to draw some diagram to explain the scenarios that a smart person might fail. And when I was just drawing it out, I realized that I don't have enough space for that. So I'm going to present my essay in a format of a bunch of slides, and I will see you on the other side. By the way, let me show you a sneak peek of the diagram, and that's going to be elaborated in the presentation that's coming after this video. So see you on the other side. Okay, here is now the presentation of how smart people fail and how not to fail if you're a smart person. Before I start, I have to explain a little bit about my background and um, the fact that I have interacted with hundreds, if not thousands, of really smart people during at least the past 10 years. This may sound that I'm bragging, but it's not. When I'm going to cover the pitfalls and the traps that the smart people fall into, you will see why. But bear with me and give me some leeway at the moment. I went to the best secondary school in the entire country of Iran, and for my college, I also went to the second best engineering college in the entire country. In school years, it was not uncommon for me to see so many people who have won gold medals in international Olympiads in informatics, international mathematics Olympiads, and same for physics and chemistry among our teachers and even among our classmates. We saw some people who were really sharp. I can't emphasize how sharp they were. And also, to a lesser extent, it was true in my college, and even lesser extent because in grad school you don't have that many classmates. But I also witnessed the same thing when I attended the UT Austin College of Engineering for my master's study. And also, there are plenty of smart people in Google where I worked for 3.5 years. So I got the chance to meet and interact with so many smart people on a daily basis. And I have categorized some of the behaviors that will become problematic, and the things that I'm going to talk about are hopefully informative to you, but they really hit home for me. And for each point, I have at least one example among my friends and among my colleagues who have experienced it. So, yeah, let's dive in and see what happens to a smart person when they are born. Basically, if you're a smart kid, you usually get good grades. In elementary school and primary school, it's not uncommon for everyone to get good grades. But as the courses become more difficult, you will be the one who is consistently getting the good grades. And often you don't have to work that hard for it. Often it's just sheer talent that it's causing it. And you will get awards, and of course you will be told that you are special, you will get praised, and it's just awesome. You are an example for the other kids. Depending on the culture, again, maybe in the US it's different, but that's generally what you're experiencing. You see some other people who are working hard, yet they don't necessarily achieve the same thing that you are achieving, and it's just natural to you. And also, your friends will come to you to ask for help with their assignments, with their exams, or whatever. And you will start to develop two characteristics. One of them is laziness, and the second one, which is not that pronounced early, but it is rooted in the early years, is arrogance. um, you are special, others aren't told enough that they are special, and it just starts to embed itself, and you start to cultivate it in your personality. um, of course, laziness can't last forever. As you are progressing, as you are just getting good grades, you will also be selected in more selective clubs and collection of people. Maybe it will be a charter school, maybe it will be one of the best colleges or one of the most prestigious companies or firms. And you will see so many other smart people. So just sheer talent probably won't cut it that much. And you are challenged. So you have to work hard. And some people who work hard and are outperforming you are not as smart as you. That's generally what you're experiencing. People who are hardworking are outperforming people who are lazy and smart. Another pernicious consequence that starts to develop in the mind of a smart person is a simulated notion of fairness. You're in an environment where um, studying well and being talented and hard work usually results into a good outcome. You achieve things, you achieve awards, you achieve accomplishments, you just excel. And it will be a habit, and also a very deep yet implicit understanding that the world is fair, and um, if you work hard, you will succeed. By the way, I have to apologize for the capitalization error of the hard work that you see, but let it be. I digress. I have to make a comparison and contrast between that smart kid and the not so bright classmates of his. Those people are not getting good grades. Probably they are not working as hard, but sometimes out of nowhere they get good grades. They don't know why. I mean, they they they'll see it's dumb luck, but it happens. Most of the times they don't, but sometimes they do for no obvious reason. And also because they can't compete in that predefined path, they'll start to take risk. It could manifest itself in the form of cheating. Of course, that's not something I condone, but I wanted to draw the comparison. Or sometimes taking some other risk, maybe just taking some adventure, or just doing, or maybe joining some motorcycle club, or anything that a person who is not being selected to the most elite clubs will do. And they are not going to experience the same logical and simulated environment. But the smart kid does. So they will get an understanding of the concept of fairness. And that's the build up. By this point, that smart kid is probably early into college, late at high school, and here we are. Now we are talking about maturation. Once they graduate, maybe early years in career, and this is what they experience. But before I again talk about the consequences, I have to um, explain one sign that you are dealing with a smart person. Smart people usually can see multiple steps ahead. And for example, when you are just discussing some ideas with them, whether it's about work, any problems that you're solving together, you start to present your own idea. You will say, hey, here is my idea, and they'll say it doesn't work for reason X. And you don't get it. You start to further explain and say, I don't get it, but it will work because of so and so and so. And they have to backtrack and start to explain the premises of your argument. And they'll take you step by step to the final reason, which was 10 steps ahead of you. So you will realize that instantly they saw through all your arguments, and they just presented the, I mean, 10th step reason that why it will not work. And it's just fascinating. And that's one of the characteristics of smart people. They usually see through things fast and ahead of others. And it's good, but it has its own flaws and side effects. One of them is that when they are um, weighing in a bunch of choices, they will use the same muscle, they will use the same analytical prowess, and they usually rule off the choices with low chances. They underestimate them. It's all good when you are, for example, talking about buying a lottery ticket to get rich, and they will say that the chances are astronomically low and it's not worth trying, it's not worth spending any money on it. But that becomes habit. They are getting better at their analysis and their, I mean, their clairvoyancy talents per se, and it becomes a habit to see what can go wrong. Um, in the lottery example, it's okay, but when you're talking about quests or anything worthy in life where the chances of success are not 100%, they will fall into the same um, reasoning. They fail to understand that sometimes with your own effort you can manufacture luck and you can improve your odds. But they haven't experienced that, so they are going to overlook those opportunities. Let's say talking about starting a business, a very small fraction of each new business will see the 10th year, and so many of them won't survive. So they will habitually probably will rule that out because they can see through all the risks with a particular business plan. But again, world changes in the days that you are working on the business. There will be changes that will bring more luck to whomever is prepared. But since they didn't start, they won't see that. And it becomes a habit. Sometimes they also get stuck in their analysis because to get good grades, you have to study hard. So they think that maybe implicitly, they think that in order to succeed in whatever goal that you have defined, you have to analyze it, you have to lay out plans, then execute. And since they are smart, they will see so many things and they will just paralyze themselves. One of the famous examples that I want to make is the F-111 aircraft. So many smart people in the Department of Defense of the US back in those days were thinking about the design of that aircraft and the requirements and the specifications and making sure that all the branches can use the same infrastructure. And because of that analysis, that project was overrun in cost and budget and timeline, and eventually it saw some success. But as soon as McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, was replaced, so many of his systems and analytical plans were purged as well in favor of a bias towards action. Again, that's something usually smart people will fall prey into, just overthinking it basically. The next consequence is again the notion of fairness. If you study hard, you would succeed. It's a consequence of the simulated and logical environment that they grew up in. That environment will cause them to think linearly, and later that linear thinking will manifest itself in a scarcity mentality. You will usually see your smart classmate graduating high school, then going into a prestigious college, and after college, what to do? Let's see what's next, what the smart kids around me do, and what's the next opportunity to show how smart I am. So they'll go to grad school. And after that, what's after grad school? What's the next challenge? Let's go and get a PhD. And what's next after that? Let's go and get a postdoc and later become a professor. I don't say that all of your professors chose that career path blindly, But I have seen so many examples of such people who ironically saw that they are being placed into that path, and they kind of sort of didn't like it and they had mixed feeling about it, but they did it anyway because that's something that they are used to. Okay, now let's talk about the unbalanced development. You're a smart person, you get good grades, you study, and you study alone usually, or even if there is a course project, only one person, I mean, let's be honest, does all the work, and that's usually the smart, hard-working person, and you just get good result, and you invest more and more time into that skill, and it will become an imbalance. You don't do so much of group work because you want to do it alone, because other people are not as smart as you. And you also want to show it off. Hey, look at me. I'm the best student in my class. You will show it off. And also, you will use that achievement as a coping mechanism for your imbalance. You implicitly know that you are not that funny. You are not probably that athletic. But you are smart and you have high achievement, you are the best student, and that insecurity feeds again into your arrogance, and you will become more and more arrogant. And arrogance also comes from your notion of fairness. If you see someone not getting good grades, it's probably because they didn't work hard. So I worked hard and I got good grades, and I'm the one with the highest degree of work ethic in everyone whom I know. Um, and therefore I'm entitled, I'm arrogant. And that's the reinforcement of arrogance in the personality of a smart person. Here I'm putting both of those together, the linear way of thought and also um, taking no risk. And I have to make a connection saying that when you are taking no risk, you usually want to work on what works. We know what works and we study for the next exam. So instead of just trying something that doesn't work, maybe a new business, let's just focus on getting promoted, not necessarily doing something that will fail. And that's a linear way of thought. And also, because of your arrogance, you are afraid to fail because you have been the guy who usually stacked up all the awards, and now you don't want to be the failure. You don't want to be the little guy. And through that linear thinking and not making any risk, you now have a scarcity mentality. You see a job ladder in front of you. You see one path in front of you. You don't see so many opportunities around. Again, let's make a comparison to so many other people who are not as bright as you. Now, they are not probably in the most prestigious colleges or most prestigious companies, but they are trying so many other things while you are on a career ladder in academia or in a well established and a prestigious company. And because of that, you now have a scarcity mentality. Now we are at the disasters. Now we have seen what characteristics will develop into the personality of a smart person, and now we will see the vicious fruitation of those characteristics. The first one is, since you were thinking linearly, you have developed a scarcity mentality. In a big company, there is a job ladder, there is a career ladder. Promotions have quota. Maybe they don't, but usually they do. Um, at least there has to be only one manager for each segment of the company. There has to be one CEO. There has to be one director for one particular portion of the business. So you start to use other people, you manipulate other people to get the next goal, get the next milestone, get the next accomplishment and award. People may not realize it immediately. People may collaborate with you. People are probably not as smart as you, but eventually people will figure it out. People are not stupid. If I were to give you an example of how smart people backstab one another, I would say watch the TV show Silicon Valley or the movie Social Network. Don't watch The Big Bang Theory. It's not a good depiction of how smart people backstab one another. It's a fun show, by the way. They start to use other people, and little by little they'll become lonelier and lonelier, and at that point they see some quotes, such as "it's lonely at the top," or maybe some uh, motivational Instagram reels or TikTok posts saying that who is smart is poised and destined to be lonely and whatnot. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's because you weren't a good friend to deserve good friends. And after that, there is a vicious cycle of loneliness and resentment. You are lonely, and because of that, you will be resentful. And because you are resentful, you will have difficulty making new friends, so you are lonelier. And that's the vicious trap that you will end up being in. And of course, just like there are multiple ways to roam, there are also multiple ways to fall into that trap. I touched upon it earlier, saying that thinking linearly will expose you to being exploited as a nerd. People who design those job ladders, they want, they call it golden handcuffs. They want to keep employing and using those nerds and put them in a competition to work harder and harder for the betterment of the company, not necessarily their lives. And also, since you are arrogant, you will love flattery, maybe not explicitly, but I mean, who doesn't like a compliment? And some people will intentionally use that to abuse you. The business world is full of stories where the sales guy, where a CEO um, uses the ability of a technical person to just make the company and later ditch them. I mean, there are too many stories to just mention. Um, and later you will realize that no matter how smart you were, um, you are not abused. I have seen so many people, I mean, too many people who are stuck in promotion cycles and the promotion is getting denied because other smart people are competing with them. And because of that, they are becoming more and more grumpy at work. In some examples, I have seen those people having terrible family life. They are disrespected in their own home, and it's just miserable. You see a smart person who is just so bright, yet so grumpy that you can't even tolerate them. They are insufferable. And once you dig in and you see their entire life, it's just misery. But because of their linear thinking and scarcity mentality, what they see is just the next promotion or the next whatever, and they don't take risk because they are scared and are afraid of change. So they get stuck in this cycle of resentment and loneliness. And of course, another way is that now, after 20 years graduating college, you go on LinkedIn and you see so many of your friends who are not so smart, who were frankly maybe a little retarded or just rocking it. I mean, they have some big companies, they are even university professors, and they are just doing so well in life. And because of your notion of fairness, because in the simulated world that you were brought up, if you studied hard, you would succeed. But now you see some people who didn't put in the work, um, are just succeeding and, in fact, are doing better than you. Now, again, you are resentful. And because of being resentful, you have difficulty making new friends. And because of uh, not having any good friends, you are more and more resentful. And that's another thing. But again, comparing to that dumb kid in the school, they just didn't have any idea what's going on. Let's just wing it. And they were having fun, probably, maybe not. But they didn't see, and they didn't experience the same logical environment. That's the luxury you had. And of course, if you ask me, the worst trap that a smart person can fall into is just becoming a smart idiot. They are so articulate, they can argue with anyone, and they are usually good at arguing. But because of the disappointment that is derived from the notion of fairness, and of course, because we all have cognitive biases, they are resentful and they will become smart idiots. They may do stuff, some idiotic stuff, to their own detriment, and usually other people can't argue with them. So, again, the cycle of loneliness and resentment starts, and it's just so bitter. Yep, that's the next thing that can happen to a smart kid later in life. I've put all of these together, and I mean, one road to that trap is through arrogance, flattery, being abused, comparison, um, this time after so many years, um, and also just losing friends because you wanted to go ahead with that linear path that you have defined for yourself. And now let's look at the end game. One possibility is just mediocrity. Smart people are unlikely to end up being homeless or being a drug junkie because they usually play it safe. So you probably won't see them on the streets, but you will probably see them having a small apartment somewhere, um, doing some job, and just be. I mean, being alone, maybe with some pets, and that's that. It's not necessarily a bad thing because maybe it's intentional. Because the escape from mediocrity is through taking a challenge. And in life, you don't want to always take challenge. You sometimes want to stop. You sometimes, want to forget about all challenges and you want to raise a family. You want to take your kid to the park and just play with them, and after that buy an ice cream for them, and not necessarily starting another company. So some other smart people may frown upon that lifestyle and call it mediocrity, but for them it could be, I mean, a very well lived life if it's intentional. If that's something you say, hey, I'm deciding to step back. But if you're constantly comparing yourself with others who are probably sacrificing family life or any other priority, to career advancement or any other goal, you will be resentful. But if it's intentional, you're at peace and it's all okay. The second endgame scenario that I have seen, unfortunately, too often is the resentment and loneliness cycle that I explained, isolation and exclusion, and just dying alone. And it's a shame when you see someone who is so bright, so rich at the end, yet they are so grumpy and insufferable. And I have seen too many of them, unfortunately. And sometimes it's a combination of both, which is something that I'm not going to cover because it's too dark. I will leave that to your own imagination. So what to do? What are the remedies? What can we do about it? I have come up with some bullet point items, but by no means they are exhaustive, and maybe you can have your own comments about it. The first one starts at the early ages by parents and through discipline. If you see someone is becoming arrogant, or someone is just becoming lazy, or someone is too afraid of taking risk, you can just make them do that as parents. You can make sure that they have good friends. You can make sure that they are good friends. You can give them some even meaningless work to make sure that they are just doing the work, and you can just um, make sure that they are facing what they fear. The second thing is genuine kindness and empathy. Whatever you do, no matter how smart and how hardworking you are and how successful you are, you need other people, even for your own career goals, even for your own accomplishments. But for a better life, you definitely need kind people around you. And one key to have that is be kind yourself and try to understand them, try to empathize with other people. The next thing is traveling and reading novels, which can address linear thinking and scarcity mentality and also help you developing more empathy. When you go somewhere on the other side of the globe and you see a completely different way of life and way of understanding life, it will broaden your horizon. I'm not talking about going into a hotel and staying in a luxurious spa where everywhere in the world, like the best food is a piece of steak and um, I don't know. I mean, the endless pools are everywhere the same. It's about living with the people, knowing where the garbage truck comes and how the everyday life of people looks like. And you have to stay for a little longer than 1 week, 2 weeks, something that will give you a notion of how the native people commute, what they do for a living. And the next thing is just taking risks and taking a leap of faith. Just like how fear and cowardice was habitual, courage is habitual too. It's a muscle. If you take some risk, even some dumb risk when it's inconsequential, you are developing that muscle and you can use the same muscle later. And the next thing is just embracing absurdity. Life is not fair. So, what about it? Again, compare yourself with the classmate of yours who wasn't that smart. They were just enjoying the life as it was coming to them. Why don't you do that? Why do you have the expectation of everything working out perfectly? It's just the way of life. And once you have that mentality, once you realize that there could be so many things that can go wrong at this very moment, um, you will start to develop a sense of gratuity. You will realize that, hey, maybe I'm not doing as well as the dumb kid in the school who is just rocking it in their career 20 years later, but I have a good roof over my head and I'm just doing well and I like it. So why should I be resentful? I mean, I can only be thankful. Life is a little absurd. There are so many idiot people who can easily change the course of life of millions of people, of probably billions of people, and it hasn't happened. So yeah, that's the last thing I have to add. I mean, life is not fair, so let's just enjoy it. And that's all. If you have any questions, comments, or anything, just feel free to leave them down below. If you want to see the diagram that I was showing to you and you want to just navigate around that, feel free to click on the show notes. And if you want to see some more videos from me, feel free to click on the pop-ups that should be displayed by this point. Until the next time, wherever you are and whatever time it is out there, have a good one. Bye.